Today, we're diving into Michelangelo. But we're not just looking at him as a Renaissance master. We're looking at him as a man whose entire career is like a roadmap for a world in massive transition, from an age of incredible confidence to one of deep, deep anxiety. But let's kick things off with what has to be one of the greatest ironies in all of art history. These were the actual words Michelangelo protested to Pope Julius II, who was, one of the most powerful men on the planet at the time. You have to understand, he saw himself as a sculptor, first, last, and always. His entire identity was wrapped up in marble, in the act of freeing a figure from a block of stone. And yet here he was being ordered to take on one of the most ridiculously ambitious painting projects ever imagined. So this is really the central question for us today. How did this incredible tension between who he thought he was and what he was asked to do, between the artist and his era, end up creating a legacy that would shape art for centuries to come? Okay, so to really get this, we've got to go right back to the beginning, back to his youth. He's in Florence, and the city is just buzzing with the energy of the High Renaissance, a time of incredible optimism about what human beings could achieve. So he's born in 1475, and pretty quickly he gets swept into the orbit of Florence's most powerful family, the Medici. Lorenzo de' Medici, the head of the family, basically takes the young Michelangelo under his wing. He's not just showing him ancient sculptures, he's immersing him in the whole humanist philosophy that was defining the age. This wasn't just job training, it was a whole new way of looking at the world. And you can see that vision brought to life perfectly in his first masterpiece, the Pietà. Now get this. He was only 23 when he carved it, and it has every single ideal of the Renaissance wrapped up in it. Just look at the Virgin Mary. She's so serene, impossibly young. Her face isn't twisted in grief. It's this quiet, resigned sorrow. The whole thing is built on this super stable, harmonious pyramid shape. This is divine beauty, made real through almost inhuman technical skill. It was so perfect, in fact, that the story goes he overheard some people saying it had to be the work of another older artist. So in a fit of pride, he actually snuck back into the church and carved his name right across Mary's sash. It's the only work he ever put his name on. After this, he creates another icon of the age, his David. And here he completely flips the script on the subject. See, before Michelangelo, sculptors always showed David after the fight, standing triumphantly with Goliath's head at his feet. But Michelangelo shows us David in the moment before the battle. This sculpture isn't about the bloody victory. It's about the conscious decision to fight. It's a statue celebrating brainpower, potential, and inner courage. That's the core of Renaissance humanism right there. All right, so now we head to Rome and to the commission that would come to define him, even though he fought against it. Pope Julius II summons him to the Vatican, not to carve a grand tomb, but to paint. And the scale of this project was, well, it was just insane. For 4 solid years, Michelangelo was up on scaffolding, working almost completely by himself, painting over 500 square meters of ceiling with more than 300 individual figures. Just imagine it. He was a sculptor at heart, forcing himself day in and day out to become the greatest painter the world had ever seen. And the absolute centerpiece of the whole thing is, of course, the creation of Adam. This one image is basically the High Renaissance in a nutshell. You have God, who's this dynamic, powerful old man, surging with energy, and then Adam, who's beautiful but limp, not quite alive yet. And that tiny gap between their fingers, it's electric. It's charged with all the potential of humanity. It's the spark of life, of intellect, of the divine being passed on. It is an image of pure, absolute optimism. But the story doesn't stop there. Not even close. More than 20 years later, Michelangelo gets called back to that exact same chapel, this time to paint the massive wall behind the altar. But in those 2 decades, everything had changed. The world had changed, and Michelangelo had changed right along with it. I mean, really, what on earth could have happened to turn the artist who gave us that hopeful vision of creation into the man who would paint what came next? The shift is just breathtaking. The calm, confident harmony of the ceiling completely gives way to the swirling, anxious chaos of the Last Judgment. The theme is no longer about hopeful beginnings, it's about terrifying endings. So what happened? Well, the confident world of the High Renaissance had been totally rocked by the Protestant Reformation. In response, the Catholic Church launched the Counter-Reformation, and it ushered in an age of religious warfare, doubt, and spiritual crisis. Art like this wasn't about inspiring you with beauty anymore, it was about scaring you back into the faith. And this is where it gets deeply, deeply personal. If you look closely, buried in all that terrifying chaos, there's a chilling detail. The martyr St. Bartholomew is holding up the skin that was flayed from his body. And the face on that empty, sagging skin? It's a self-portrait of Michelangelo. He's no longer the godlike creator from the ceiling. He's a tortured, empty soul, putting his own spiritual agony right there on the wall for everyone to see. And this new, darker, more emotional vision wasn't just confined to his paintings. It completely blew up his approach to architecture, pushing him to break the same classical rules he had once worked so hard to perfect. He became one of the pioneers of this new style called Mannerism. Now, if the Renaissance was all about calm, harmony, and rational order, Mannerism was the opposite. It was about creating tension, emotion, and a real psychological experience. It was art that was designed to make you feel something, even if that feeling was discomfort. A perfect example is the staircase he designed for the Laurentian Library in Florence. Just look at it. The columns are sunk into niches in the wall. They aren't holding anything up. They just create this feeling of pressure, of being squeezed. The stairs in the middle actually bulge outwards, which makes you feel a little disoriented. The whole thing feels less like a staircase and more like a cascade of molten lava pouring into the room. It's all done on purpose to create drama and tension. This is the Last Judgment, but made of stone. And here's what's so incredible. We can actually trace his entire life's journey, from that confident young master to the tormented old man, just by looking at the one subject he returned to over and over again, the Pietà. First, you have the St. Peter's Pietà from all the way back in 1499. It's flawless, serene, almost divinely detached. It is the absolute pinnacle of high Renaissance perfection and idealism. Then, fast forward decades to around 1555. He carves the Pietà Bandini, which he probably intended for his own tomb. And all that serene harmony? It's gone. This is crowded, it's awkward, it is just overflowing with raw, complicated human emotion. This is the work of a man who is wrestling with his own mortality, his own grief. And finally, there's the Pietà Rondinini. This is the statue he was working on in the last days of his life. It's unfinished, it's abstract, almost like a ghost. The polished, elegant forms of his youth are completely stripped away. All that's left is this raw, spiritual connection between a mother and her son. Physical beauty doesn't matter anymore. All that's left is pure, unfiltered spirit. Michelangelo died in 1564. He was 88 years old, and he had been chipping away at that final sculpture right up until the very end. His life and his art bridged one of the most transformative and turbulent periods in human history. So it leaves us with this big question, doesn't it? Michelangelo's journey proves that the greatest art is never made in a bubble. He didn't just create masterpieces, he absorbed the world around him, its confidence, its faith, its terror, and he carved it into marble and painted it across ceilings. So maybe the answer is that true genius isn't one or the other. Maybe it's the rare ability to do both, to have a singular, powerful vision, and to hold up a perfect mirror to the triumphs and the traumas of an entire age.